Where the dead walk. In some corners of the earth, the boundary between the living and the dead is not a line, it's a veil. And veils can be torn. There is a village that doesn't appear in many guidebooks, tucked deep in the plains of Dolj County, southern Romania. A place where the land hums not with the songs of modernity but with whispers, of things that should not walk, but do. This is the story of Modernity, where in 2004, the dead did not rest, and the living were forced to remember an ancient fear. The story of a man named Petre Toma, whose grave was opened 6 weeks after his burial. Not out of hatred. Not for revenge. But out of something far older, fear. A fear with a name, Strigoi. The village beneath the fog. Modernity lies wrapped in mist, forgotten by time. The roads are cracked, the fields worn. Life here is slow, deliberate, and shaped by generations of toil and belief. Electricity arrived late. So did paved roads. But superstition, that had always been here. In these lands, modern maps lose their meaning. GPS may show you coordinates, but it cannot measure ancestral dread. Villagers speak in hushed tones, not because they fear judgment, but because they believe some things should not be named after dark. To outsiders, it's a quiet village. But to those who live here, the silence is a warning. What is a strigoi? In Western lore, the word vampire conjures up images of cloaks, fangs, and candlelit castles. But in Romania, especially in its rural soul, that creature has another name, strigoi. A strigoi is not a myth. At least, not to them. They are believed to be spirits of the dead who rise from the grave to torment the living. But unlike the seductive vampires of fiction, strigoi are restless, angry, cursed. Often former humans who died untimely deaths, betrayed, or buried improperly. They come back not to love, but to feed. They drink not just blood, but energy, health, sanity. In some accounts, they knock on windows at night, appearing in dreams, whispering strange languages. Those who answer may fall ill. Those who ignore may die. And the terrifying truth? In villages like Modernity, too many people claim to have seen one. The ancient war between life and death. Throughout history, humankind has feared one great mystery more than any other: what lies beyond death. But in Romania, death is not the end of the story. It may, in fact, be a second beginning. In ancient Dacian beliefs, the roots of Romanian folklore, death was merely a journey. But if a soul was wronged, or if rituals were ignored, it might lose its way, returning with vengeance. Christianity came later, but the bones of belief remain the same: if the dead aren't respected, they return hungry. Even today, in some Romanian regions, mirrors are covered when someone dies, animals are kept from seeing the body, and coins are placed in the deceased's hands. Each act isn't just symbolic, it's a safeguard. But sometimes, even these rituals aren't enough. 2004, when the grave spoke again. In February 2004, winter still lingered. Cold winds crawled through the village. It had been 6 weeks since Petre Toma was buried, a man in his 70s, a farmer, a father, a grandfather. Then, his niece fell ill. Then another family member. Nightmares, fever, delirium. And always the same whisper. Unchiul Petre ma striga. Uncle Petre is calling me. They said he appeared at the foot of their beds, whispering unintelligible things. They felt him sit on their chests at night. Some awoke with scratches. Others heard his footsteps outside the door, though he was supposed to be 6 feet under. For the villagers, the explanation was simple: he had become a strigoi. The ritual of fire and blood. In the stillness of night, 6 villagers, his relatives, gathered their tools, shovels, candles, garlic, and courage. They walked quietly to the cemetery. No police. No priest. Just silence, tradition, and fear. They unearthed the grave. What they claimed they saw was chilling. His body had not decomposed. His chest was swollen, as if breathing. Blood was found around his mouth. His heart was still red. They believed this was proof. With trembling hands, they cut out his heart, burned it to ashes on a fire built beside the grave, then mixed the ashes into water. This mixture, dark and bitter, was then given to the ill family members to drink. It was not revenge. It was a remedy. And the next morning, they say, the illness stopped. Fear on trial. News traveled fast. Headlines screamed across Europe. Modern vampire ritual shocks Romania. Grave robbers or folk healers. Supernatural justice in 21st century. The Romanian authorities were horrified. The 6 men were arrested. Prosecutors charged them with disturbing the peace of the dead. Forensic experts were sent. Media vans flooded the region. And yet, the villagers remained unmoved. They did what had to be done, they said. The state could not save them. Doctors had failed them. But the ritual worked. They didn't ask to be understood. They just wanted their families to breathe again. Where science fails, myth prevails. Anthropologists descended on the region, not with cameras, but with notebooks. They wanted to know, how could such a thing still happen in modern Romania? The answer wasn't madness. It was meaning. In places like Miradina de Sus, healthcare is sparse. Poverty is real. And where science cannot explain suffering, myth steps in. Not as a fantasy, but as a framework for action. When people are powerless, rituals become medicine. Belief becomes therapy. Fire and blood become hope. And hope, no matter how dark, is a powerful medicine. Strigoi in the shadows of modernity. The Romanian government responded with public awareness campaigns. Priests were sent to educate. Schools included lessons on folklore versus science. But old beliefs die slowly. To the villagers, what happened in 2004 wasn't superstition, it was survival. Even today, some claim to have seen shadowy figures walking at night. Dogs howl at empty corners. Children whisper stories about the red-eyed ones. Even those who claim not to believe still don't walk past the cemetery alone. Because belief isn't always logical. Sometimes, it's inherited like blood. Echoes in the cemetery. 2 decades later, Petre Toma's grave still exists. A simple cross. No flowers. No candles. Just silence. But ask the right villager at the right time, and they'll tell you. They still feel something there. A heaviness in the soil. A breath against the wind. And in nearby villages, similar stories continue to surface, some whispered, some recorded, most dismissed. But behind every shrug is a flicker of fear. Because deep down, nobody wants to be wrong about the dead. The grave whispers still. Fear is older than reason. And when reason fails, fear speaks in the voice of folklore. In Romania, where mist still clings to the earth and the sun sets behind forests that seem to breathe, stories like these remain. Not as entertainment, but as warnings. As memories. Strigoi may never walk the streets of New York or London, but in the hearts of Romania's oldest villages, they remain alive. And perhaps that's the point. We bury our dead. We mourn. We move on. But some things refuse to stay buried. We do not fear the dark because it is empty. We fear it because we know, deep down, it might not be.